We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
What is up, Cal fans? We are back. August 2022, which means we are less than a month away from Cal football being back and available for us to enjoy. We are, of course, a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am alongside Rob. Rob, what is happening? How is your life at fall camp been so far?
Football is in the air. It's the best feeling. I've had this debate with a few friends. Like, what is the best sports month, in your opinion?
It's definitely not July.
It's definitely not July or June.
This is the lull. I think I like March a lot.
You got March Madness. You got college basketball. You got baseball, like just about to start up. You got basketball in the heat of like the playoff runs,
and in NHL as well.
And
then you've just like exited football, but you still kind of
draft
have
stuff.
Draft stuff going on. So that's like there's an endless amount of consumption that can happen then. And then, of course, as you look at, I think September, October is where you have at least from October, November, you kind of have college football, college basketball, NFL, NBA. Yeah, there's just a gauntlet, NHL, gauntlet of things happening.
Yeah. October, you get playoff baseball.
What about you?
I think, March Madness is hard to beat. Like, it's one of the best times of the year. That entire month of just like watching college basketball on your phone for hours. But outside of that, I'd have to say October. You got like meaningful playoff baseball happening. You got the hype of like, being in literally right in the second quadrant of college football and like the start of the NFL. And then you got the hype starting to build into the NBA season, which, you get the preseason games and a little bit of that. So that would be it for me.
Solid pick.
College basketball doesn't mean as much if you're a Cal fan right now. So like, unless you're like in March Madness. So like outside of March Madness, like college basketball season is deemed meaningless.
Fun fact, I texted Rob and asked if all of a sudden Mark Fox was turning a page and driving in high-quality recruits because we got this guy that was
like a 4-star shooting guard.
Well, a 4-star shooting guard, and then the 5-star transfer that we got.
Yes.
That was one of the best recruits in the nation at the time. Do you want to give your answer?
Sure.
All right. Well, I texted him all excited, and the answer is...
Oh, I don't know why you're excited. It's not happening. It's not.
So for the casual fan that got excited by reading Right for California and seeing a 4-star recruit select Cal, just a reminder.
I mean, I would love to be proven wrong. I would absolutely be if we're talking about college basketball every year. It's like I know what the expectation is, and I know what my analysis of the team and the performance we're going to be seeing is in my mind. But it's one of those things where I'm like, please prove me wrong. Like, please tell me I am the idiot. I would love to be the idiot in this case.
What do you think they buy? What is a collegiate basketball or high school basketball player
At Cal, what are they buying? Like as a recruit?
Yeah.
Probably the academics. I mean, the dude said in his the dude who just committed, he said in his like recruitment like commitment interview, I think with 247, where he's like, I think I can't remember the line verbatim, but basically it was along the gist of the basketball stops bouncing at some point, and I wanted to be prepared for when it does. So I think that's the thing with Cal and any of these academically high profile places is you'll have guys every once in a while that definitely put that as priority number one. The guys got Jalen and so on. So you'll get that, but those come far and few between.
I was going to say, Jalen, that has very similar vibes to Jalen Brown.
Yeah.
So who knows?
We won't know.
Here we are today. Rob is saying
I don't know why we're even talking about this. We don't even need to talk about this for like at least another 3 months.
Fair enough. That's
least
enough.
another 3 months.
Basketball talk for today. We are going to be transitioning. So this is the semi-official Cal football 2022 season preview.
Yes. Yeah. So if you didn't read the little note that we have or the about the pod, basically we're gonna split this up into two. Today we're gonna be talking about some of the media polls and just our thoughts on the team itself. Then we'll talk about the first 5 games of the season. We'll stop at the bye, which is October 8th, and then the next pod we have, which you'll have next week, that'll cover the rest of the season. So this is part 1 of our season preview. Of course, we'll have our usual season preview podcast as well with a couple of people where we're just spitting hot takes. And have any of us ever gotten anything right we've said on those preview pods?
Trace got a few right.
Trace, yeah. But he was the only realist ever.
True.
Realist ever, yeah. We were always like, we're going to have like 2,000-yard rushers. And
Yeah, I haven't gotten anything right. No, nothing. Other than, I think, a kicker deciding the game.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was either a kicker or a punter was going to decide the outcome of a game, and that ended up being true.
Didn't you say Jamison Shahan was going to be a weapon for us in one of the games?
No,
like,
that was Jasper.
Oh, was that Jasper? Oh,
yes, and I held it against him forever. I was like, Jasper, how's that pick working out for you?
Ooh, not great. Great guy to talk to though. We talked to him this week, but I digress. All right, let's talk about the team and the preseason polls and so on. So let me run you through a couple of these. Like I've been using the Pick 6 previews, their PDF write-up of the college football season. Their stuff is really good. If you want to go take a look at it, please do. It's not that expensive, and you can buy the PDF and go through all Power 5 programs. But their prediction for the Pac-12 is Oregon, then Washington, then Oregon State. Cal and Stanford tied for 4th, and Washington State last in the Pac-12 North. In the South, it's Utah, followed by SC, LA, Arizona State, and ends with Colorado. That's based off like their stats and their unit rankings and returning production and so on. The media poll, on the other hand, predicts Utah to win the Pac-12 again this year, 26 first place votes, followed by Oregon with 2 first place votes, then SC with 5. Then UCLA, then Oregon State, then Washington State, then Stanford, then Cal, then Arizona State, Arizona, and then Colorado at the very bottom, which I have a lot of questions about this, but
yeah, it just shows you how little the media knows. What do you mean Washington State? What in the world? All right, first of all, can we just poke some holes in this? Washington is breaking in a brand new coach.
And a quarterback.
And quarterback. Everyone that's saying Washington is going to be this powerhouse, prove it. Prove it to me that that's going to actually happen. Secondly, USC is going to win the conference. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Utah is not going to beat SC. Oregon is breaking in a new coach. I'm not bought into Oregon being the second best team in the Pac-12 this year. USC is the best team in this conference until proven otherwise. And then
wow.
And then
Andy's been a hot fire to start this.
Yeah, and Wazoo, are you kidding me? What possibly could you see in Washington State right now that you're like, this is going to be the 7th best team in the conference?
They had a great year last year. They had,
Great year?
well, I mean, after Rolovich, they had a pretty good year.
But
So I'll give you some stuff to help your side first. Okay?
perfect. Yes. Feed the ego.
I'll feed you the ego first. I don't understand why you would vote Washington State or Washington or Stanford ahead of Cal in this particular circumstance without them having proven anything. Because Cal was 0-5 in games decided by one score or less last year. If even 2 of those 5 games go in Cal's favor, that changes the entire narrative of the Cal football season in 2021. So if you take that into account, why isn't that taken into account a lot more than having one team that had coaching turmoil, one team that had coaching turmoil, and one team that had coaching turmoil? You can decide which one is which, but I mean that's my thing. Like Washington. So, but then I'll play the other side. I'll play devil's advocate here. Like for Washington State, I think this is the year they're giving them the benefit of the doubt that Coach Dicker, like whatever he did at the end of last season, will carry on into this season, right? I think that's how they voted here.
For sure.
But then if you take that mentality, how do you take that and say, I guess you can say that with Washington, like Kalen DeBoer had a good year at Fresno State last year, and that's just going to kind of continue on. But like, there's this disconnect there. Like how do you say that about Washington, but then you give like SC like only third? Like if that's the mentality, right? Is that
SC should be first?
SC should be first because if that's the continuation.
Yeah.
I still believe it's Utah's conference to lose, only because we haven't seen Lincoln Riley with this roster, right? Like we know that he has the relationship with Caleb Williams and all that, but like just in a new conference, in a new setting, does the entire team know the playbook and can do what he wants them to do, like right out of the gate?
It's air raid, right?
To a certain degree, but like how he wants his wide receivers to be, where they want to be, like where they're placing them. It could have been a totally like a big revamp, and especially defensively too would have been a total revamp. So that's what I don't know, and that's the big question mark. Same thing with Oregon, like the Oregon, SC, Washington, right? Those 3 schools we know probably have the best talent in the entire conference. I think if we're just gonna look at stars and other recruiting stuff, they probably have the top 3 programs in terms of talent floor, but all 3 have new coaches.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's super silly. I don't understand. When you look at Cal, and see, I understand the Stanford pick because.
Do you? Oh wow.
I think so because do people it's conflicts with why would you rank Cal? People like consistency.
Yeah.
They know what they know. Right? It's like you could pick Stanford pretty easily with David Shaw as the head coach and be like, like it could be middle of the conference and then maybe better. It's like they're probably not going to be the absolute floor, but most likely going to be somewhere in the middle with like, the early days had the potential to go much higher. So I sort of feel like you know what you get, but like how do you not look at Wilcox and say the same exact thing? You're like, when was the last time like how consistently have we finished 9th? I feel like we've been higher than that, but maybe that's my optimistic revisionist history here.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going purely off last year, like what did you see from Stanford last year that makes you think
that they would be better than Cal?
Yeah.
100%. But particularly, I'm shocked that I just think like interim to head coach, I was pretty surprised that Washington State, especially after having Mike Leach and then the disaster that was Rolovich. I thought that they would go out and try to really grab someone, and good for them for going the consistency route. I just don't know if you're going to see that year one, and the difference between being the coach the entire time versus taking over and having a galvanized team that kind of wants to prove the world wrong because, our head coach is left in the middle of the season. And so there's some natural tendency there to go above and beyond. But yeah, I mean, this is silliness with SC. That's crazy. Third with that roster, literally Caleb Williams and then the best wide receiver in college football. Like, where? I'm sorry. And then, we're going to add in, like, every single talented player and
In the transfer portal.
From the transfer portal. And was it Dye at running back? Like, dude, they're gonna be so dynamic. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think you're right. Like, Utah has earned it.
Well, they also return like the majority of their like proven talent, right?
Yeah.
I
I just think like
that's why
it's weird to me. Like, Oregon State's super volatile because they're the inverse of us. And Jonathan Smith, I actually like a lot, but I think they're the inverse of Cal. And if you look at what our strength is defense, and all we did was add a tremendous amount of talent to it in the offseason. So that's where I get really confused. Is like, that Cal is going to be at least competitive in every single game if they have a good defense. Then my question is, what are you seeing that you're not buying from Cal's look going into this fall? Media person. That's my question. Like, what are you not buying?
Wouldn't you agree that it's probably the skew towards offense? Like, just football in general, right? From college to the NFL, we don't as heavily scrutinize the defense, but like offense and like scoring is like that. Those are the highlights. That's who we talk about. The quarterbacks are who we talk about. The skill positions are who we talk about. The yardage is what we talk about. The touchdowns are what we talk about. Like that, I think you have a somewhat of a bias to that just overall from an overarching like of the entire sport perspective. And if that's the case, yeah, Oregon State definitely should be up there. And you're giving Jonathan Smith the benefit of the doubt. Like, honestly speaking, if you're an Oregon State fan, I think this might be the can Jonathan Smith take Oregon State to that next level is this year. Like, they're giving him the benefit of the doubt of that now, right? And if he doesn't at least take that next step, or looks like he can take that next step, then that ranking at 5 probably drops to 8 for next season. But they had a great year last year. Like, I think that they're building towards something. Like, I was talking to Christopher H., one of the writers on Ride for Cal, and like, how many of these teams have a returning quarterback? It's easier to name teams that have a quarterback set than to like a returning quarterback than to name like the quarterbacks of all these new teams.
Yeah,
it's like far easier. So, yeah, I mean, we're one of those guys that have to name a quarterback. So, but anyways, let's move on from that. The media poll also released their Pac-12 conference teams of the year. There were no Cal guys on the first team offense or the second team offense, but there were guys on the defensive side. I believe Daniel Scott made the team as first team defense. I believe Brett Johnson made second team defense, and Jackson Sherman made first team defense as well.
So they clearly know. They clearly know we have Sherman. They clearly know that Brett Johnson's returning.
Yeah, and then also honorable mentions, we got Damian Moore at the running back spot. None of our wide receivers. That's going to be a chip on their shoulder for sure. Matt Cindric and Ben Coleman both made honorable mention for the offensive line. And Olufemi Oladejo also made it for Cal at linebacker. And at defensive back, of course, Lou Magia-Hearns, who is the start in making for us. And I believe that was it. But, yeah, what do you think of that? What do you think of that list? Are those the names you immediately think of, like, when you're thinking of the Cal team, like, heading into this year?
I don't know. I think that's really... I mean, I think that we have a lot of excitement at the wide receiver position.
We do.
And there's at least to not have any honorable mentions is, I think, a little tough there. I imagine you're right that room is pretty upset about that.
That also, I mean, to be a devil's advocate on that, it also comes down to production, right? Like, we know that those guys are good, but if they only produced like 200 yards last year, like,
yeah,
you can't really say that they're honorable mention if they're barely playing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if they were gonna get Damian Moore. I think there's definitely the running back
room is
absolutely stacked. But yeah, it just always feels. I mean, I don't know. Put Jermaine Terry on there for tight end.
Or Latu. Latu's up there too. Yeah, I mean, we'll go through the roster real quick before we head on to the first 5 games of the season. Some big number changes, I think, for people should know. Craig Woodson, safety, is now number 2 on the defense. Jeremiah Hunter moved from 10 to 3. Jermaine Terry moved from 87 to 4. Jaden Knott takes number 6. J. Mike stays at 7. Jackson Sermon takes number 8. Oladejo at inside linebacker moves from 43 to 10. Maven Anderson moves from 17 to 11. I think those were some of the more notable ones.
I'm shocked that we allow people to take number 10. We got to retire that one.
That's a good question. That's a good off-season pod question. Is like, what next numbers get retired? Like, we know 12 is for sure, but like, are there any other ones? Some roster notes, of course, as well. Coach mentioned Stanley McKenzie was not on the roster, so we asked him about that on Friday. Coach said that he is not with the team this fall, but they hope that he'll be joining them come this winter, spring. Same with 2022 recruit Nick Morrow. And also, he said Bastian Swinney was he was dinged up. He was like on the sideline working, and he said they expect him back soon. ISFO wasn't at practice, and he said he's dealing with he's handling some off the field stuff, and he'll be back with us soon. So no one like departure like this late, but those are just some of the notes.
What does it mean when someone is not expected for the entire football season?
I think it's a case-by-case scenario. Some guys, I don't want to speculate here on like why we have these guys, out.
Is it considered a gray shirt?
It could be. If it's a recruit coming in, it could easily be a gray shirt. Like they don't actually say it's a gray shirt. It's kind of like it's a taboo way of saying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be a gray shirt. It could be, they just wanted to take the year off. It could be, some other reason. Like maybe it's they wanted to focus on their studies. Like I honestly don't know. The what I'll take away from all of that conversation from what Coach Wilcox said was none of them have left the team. All of them they expect back at some point, or they're expecting them back. We expect to have them back in the winter, spring. We expect to have them back soon. Like that for me bodes well. That it's not one of those situations where like, oh yeah, he's left the team. Then that just creates drama. This is just there's no more need to dig into it. We know they'll be back at some point. It's just not right now.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Yeah. But, yeah, any questions about the roster or anything from my 2 days at fall camp? Wow.
Yeah, of course I have questions about fall camp, and I'm not going to say anything about the roster because the only thing I'm going to say is just going to jinx it, so forget it. Fall camp.
Okay, we got 2 days worth.
Well, I know. Let's start off with this. Because I am a lover of hype.
Sure.
You said that they came out with the most energy that you had seen since you have gone and covered fall camps with Wilcox.
Yeah.
Describe, what was it that gave you that sense of energy and excitement that was sort of at this higher level?
It's hard to describe. It's just like it's one of those things where you have to be at practice and you just like get a feel for. The one thing I will say about that is Wilcox at media days. Someone asked him about like what are your goals for this year. Do you know what his answer was? His answer was to win a championship. You and I have been around those press conferences a bunch. We have like read Wilcox's transcripts, at media days and so on. From my own recollection, and might be wrong. If anyone knows otherwise, like please tag me on Twitter or whatnot and let me know so I can correct myself. But I don't think he's ever put that lofty expectation on himself. I don't think he's ever said like he's always been one of those guys that say like, oh, we just want to get better every day, like take a game week by week. That's the type of words he says about like expectations. But like that answer for that question was like it's got to be to win a championship. So I don't know if he's putting that expectation on this team, but you can clearly tell it comes from the top down. Like he's excited about this team, and that in itself creates like this excitement around everybody. We were talking to Kai Milner on Saturday, and Coach said at media days if the game started tomorrow, Jack Plummer would be our starting quarterback. I think that's after 2 days of camp with just spider shells and like no contact whatsoever. I think that's the case. Jack Plummer right now is the one. Kai Milner is the two. Like who knows how that shakes out over another 2 weeks and when the pads actually come on and they're actually like live tackling. But we asked Kai about like what do you think about where you're at like in the order and the depth chart, and he's just like smiling like I just want to be out here like getting better every day, like just want to be able to compete and to perform the best of my abilities like every single day. Like Coach Musgrave was talking about Kai about how like he's one of those guys that really takes coaching well, where they can tell him anything straight, like don't have to like sugarcoat or anything, and it might suck to hear, but he takes it in stride and then he builds on it and he uses that to get better. And so just from that like interaction alone, I'm like this feels different. Everyone's like super excited and hyped, and there's no like heightened emotions. It's just like all good vibes all around. Like everyone's enjoying themselves.
That's like the winning team mentality.
Yeah.
I'd rather be a backup on a highly competitive winning team versus if you think your team's going to suck, well, then I'd rather be front runner.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather pad my stats.
If we're going to be bad, at least let me play.
Yeah.
But if we're going to be great, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah.
So what it sounds like is there's a lot of this. Let's get along for the ride.
Yeah.
I know we've heard Wilcox specifically talk about championships as being the ultimate destination of where they see this program going.
Yeah.
Specifically Pac-12 and going to a Rose Bowl. But I agree. I don't know if I've really ever heard him answer that question the way that you just described, where he's asked about a goal for that season. I think you're totally right. It's just high execution and always kind of about like, okay, so it's actually pretty nice to see that, especially from a cultural standpoint. It's just, once again, like you lay the foundation of success, and now it's about, okay, how do we build that up so that ultimately we can, like set the standard higher than it was the year before. And maybe losing 5 games by less than a touchdown will do that to you, where it's like, hey, like if we had come in here and had these expectations from the beginning of the year, would we have made those mistakes that cost us the game? Because we're going to hold ourselves accountable because we believe that we can be great.
Yeah.
And if you flip 4 out of those 5 games, then this team last year was a great team.
Yeah.
So they know they're right there, and maybe it's just that they're at the cusp of turning it. But that's very exciting. What about day 2? Did the energy carry into day 2 the same way?
Yeah. I don't think that's changed. I wasn't there today, which we're recording this on a Sunday evening. Like, so I don't know what it was like in day 3. I know they put pads on today. It was just spiders up until yesterday, and then Wilcox said they're going in like 4-day blocks. So they practiced Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They'll have Tuesday off. And then they'll go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then they'll get Sunday off. So He said that in the second block towards the end is when they'll go like full live tackling and full pads. So I'm assuming that's just to get ready for game prep, because that's only 2 weeks out from game week, right? So you want to get them acclimated to hitting people and getting hit like on a Saturday and then recovery on Sunday. So that's probably what they're starting this week. I'm sure that they did maybe some light tackling with pads today, at least, or with at least shells, like upper body contact. But yeah, I doubt anything was like too much. I'll have to go and read some other sites and dear friend Jesse and what he wrote on Rivals. But yeah, it definitely carried. They were definitely hyped. There was some crazy like just athletic crap that happened in that first 2 days. Like on Saturday, the play I wrote about was Jack Plummer throws this ball up in the air to the right, to like just down the sideline, and I can't remember what the route was, but Lou's right there. It was thrown to Jeremiah Hunter. Lou's right there. Lou lays out and tips the ball, like, and I'm like, oh, that's a pass breakup. What an amazing play. But it's so unlucky from a defensive perspective, because the ball pops up and it pops up right into like Jeremiah Hunter's like area, and he's like backpedaling because he turned to catch the ball, but he's still like trying to catch the ball, so he's like juggling on his hands as he's backpedaling, and then he grabs it, and then he just turns around, he's into the end zone. So like offensively, what a hell of a play to be able to keep your concentration like that. Defensively, it's like what more can you do? Like you played it perfectly, you got your hand on the ball, you tipped it away, but there's nothing you can do about that. And then Sturdivant actually on Friday was just caught a pass over the middle, but he like laid out to get it. Like he dove for it. And he was like parallel to the ground for at least 2 seconds, like as he's coming down with it. He does a little first down celebration. But yeah, there's some athletic plays that are happening left and right. So, and everyone's asking me, they're like, who's like, what do you think about the quarterbacks? I'm like, I honestly, like, ask me again in a week and a half, because I really can't tell what I can tell you like how they're throwing in 7-on-7, but that doesn't make a difference when they're playing a game and there's like a 4-man rush coming at their face and their O-line can't hold on to the pocket. Like, that's what we need to see. This defensive line is outstanding, and this offensive line has a lot of question marks. So this defensive line is definitely going to help answer some of those questions. And if we can't answer those questions in fall, it's going to be a very, very long season. But like that's where we'll find out where the quarterbacks are too. Like, are they good in the pocket? If the pocket collapses really quickly, are they good with their feet to get out, still keep the play alive, whether it be with their feet or eyes downfield and making the throw. And so that's the things I want to see, but I won't be able to see that until probably later in the week.
Well, one of the things that jumped out to me when watching Plummer was that I felt like he had a live arm and could put a lot more zip on the pass and also hit deeper routes than what we've seen from previous quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that is remotely true in your experience, or
yeah. He's so you saw it over spring camp and spring ball, like, not to knock on Chase, but he's just a different type of quarterback from Chase. He's a pocket passer. Plummer is. So like he definitely has a great arm. There were question marks about like his timing on throws and so on during the spring, and I wasn't sure how to read into that, whether it was just him still, learning the playbook, learning his wide receivers, or like, is that the reason he got benched at Purdue? And I wasn't able to tell which it was. But after watching 2 days of camp and watching him throw, it's clear it was a timing thing with the wide receivers. Like, I know they went through play run practices and, throwing sessions and whatnot, and his timing with the wide receivers is a lot better.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor. grab some extra napkins and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
I was sitting there watching it, and then Jesse looks at me and goes, I think I'm coming around on Plummer being the starting quarterback. Like, I think all of us were hoping it would be Kai. But Kai's definitely has struggled the first few days. He's gotten better every day, that's for sure. But it's just he's still a little bit below what they're probably asking of.
He's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
We forget he's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, he's only 2 years in. So yeah, that's the big question mark that most people are asking. But to answer your point, yeah, he definitely his arm looks better. There's definitely zip on the ball, and he has thrown the ball into some very, very tight windows, which I was very impressed with.
Yeah, and that too is also, I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
Yep.
And that was like the games that I watched, the picks that he made, but I was just kind of happy he was making the throws.
Yeah.
And that will be the big question mark for me as we go into the actual season is, are we going to be okay with that? Because we have not been happy at all about any turnovers. And you and I have talked about, do we discourage a mistake so much to the point that it is a big negative and holds us back?
Or where they don't take risks at all.
Yeah. You almost are so risk averse that it just completely shuts down the entire thing and looks like this weird offense that just stays within itself and never does anything remotely exciting. And then now you have somebody that could potentially break out of that. Are you okay with that? Are you creating a culture of saying that,
Yeah.
And maybe you look at this defense and you're like, yeah. Like, we can afford those types of mistakes. We can't afford the mistakes we were making in past seasons where it was backbreaking interceptions at always the worst time, or like those mistakes when you're giving up points and taking points off the board. But can you be in neutral field position and say, all right,
Yeah. We're on the 45, 3rd and 7. Rip it. Don't get it? It's fine. Just rip it. Like,
that would be...
I'm cool with that.
That
I'm
would
absolutely
be
cool
exciting.
With that. Yeah.
That would be very exciting.
Just rip it for 40 yards. Like, or 35 yards.
even-
Like, I'm fine with that.
Imagine saying the words "rip it." I just can't even create that in my mind.
F it, throw deep. Just get that one on. If you see one-on-one on the outside, you take it. You take it every time.
Jack, over here. Rip it, bro. Rip it.
Oh shoot. Yeah. That's all I have right now. Out of the newcomers, no one has really impressed so far. Like out the gate, I will say, Siope Vaticani, who is the offensive lineman that we've brought in. Spoiler alert, if you are a subscriber to Right for Cal, you can read it in my notebook, but he has... So the O-line's definitely not set, right? But he was basically running in like the 1.5 twos. 1.5/2s. Like he was in that mix. I don't know if he'll start. I could easily see a timeline where he ends up starting by season's end.
Remind me, freshman or graduate?
Freshman.
Okay.
He body type looks like a slimmed down Penei Sewell. He has some room to go. He's already, I think, like 300 pounds. Let me see if I can find his number. But yeah, he's Siope Vakitani, 6'3", 335. He's a freshman. He's good. He's the one guy that, like, all the guys that I talked to with the team heading into this season, like over the offseason and last year when they were working on this recruiting class, like they all thought that could be the guy that's out of the freshmen that could start. We talked to Ben Coleman on Friday after practice, and he was talking about like player run practices, and he said they actually had to tell Vaticani to hold up, just because like he wanted to like maul people, like he wanted to destroy people, but Ben Coleman had to like woe him down and is like no, we're just working on the footwork here, like we're not like doing like contact, like this is just so we get our mental reps in and so on. But like if you have a freshman who's 6'3", 330 pounds and is already wanting to rip the heads off of defenders like on a run, like that's a good sign. Usually a good sign. So yeah, he's the guy I would look out for. But I think that's it for the roster and stuff. Let's talk about the season.
Let's do it.
So first 5 games of the season, I'll run you down. We'll just talk briefly about some of them. So we start the season September 3rd, Saturday against Davis. We don't have a single Friday game until we play UCLA Thanksgiving weekend. How awesome is that? No Friday games during the season. I love it. But we play UC Davis Aggies, 1 p.m. Pacific time on the Pac-12 Network. The following week, September 10th, we host the UNLV Rebels. Former Cal quarterback Nate Longshore on that staff will be visiting us. And I believe Marcus Arroyo is their head coach, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So, some Cal guys that are related. And then that's also a 1 p.m. game at Memorial Stadium, followed by our big out-of-conference game, travel to South Bend to take on Notre Dame at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. September 24th is the homecoming game against the Arizona Wildcats in Berkeley. Time is TBA. And then October 1st, Washington State in Pullman. Time TV TBA. And then we have our bye week. So talk to me about the first 5 games.
I mean, the first 5 games are the reason why I'm so optimistic about this season and why I think like you also, are setting the bar at like 8-4.
Yeah.
And it's because if you come, I think the expectation should be 4-1 coming out of the schedule. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just can't be talked out of that right now. There's a real shot that you go 5-0. You have to look at the Notre Dame game and you say if Cal can win that game, that's like the linchpin of this entire thing. If Cal wins that game, what other game on this schedule are you looking at saying, yeah?
Well, I mean, our expectation is probably 4-1 or even 5-0. Like 5-0 is like everything falls in the right direction for us, and we beat Notre Dame and we clear out these teams and we head into the bye week undefeated. Like that's like anyone who's not a Cal fan listening to this is like, oh, they're just buying hype. And sure, yeah, I think the 5-0 definitely is if we're in like full hype zone.
Which is where I am 98% of the time.
Yeah. Andy doesn't step out of that zone. He's the mayor of that zone. Let me ask you the opposite side of that question. Like, what do you think is the floor?
3-2.
3-2. So like anything below 3-2, you're probably kind of upset about heading into the bye week. Like,
dude, if
kind of
it's
disappointed.
2-3, and then you're staring down, the Oregon, USC, Oregon State,
the gauntlet.
That if you're 2-3 staring that down, it's going to be the same thing that we had last season, where you're just going to have a lot of people being like, how do you get to 7?
Yeah. It's a math game now.
Yeah. I just think like 2-3. What's really interesting is if it's 2-3, but you win against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But I just don't think there's any way 2-3.
Would you rather take the Notre Dame game, or would you rather take 2 in-conference wins? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think
you go 0-3 and then you kick off Pac-12 with two wins. Like, what would you prefer?
I mean, I actually think for the brand and for the conference, it matters more to beat Notre Dame than it does like where we would finish having a 2-3 record. But I guess you could make the case, hey, like, okay, going into conference play, 2-0 that's huge. So I guess it's sort of like, do you look at it? Yeah, I mean, we don't owe the Pac-12 anything, but it would be better for, I think, the overall brand. However, if we wanted to compete for, potentially a Rose Bowl visit while we still have a Rose Bowl, then take the 2-0 in conference. But I don't see it. I don't. I mean, Davis is Davis.
I mean, that's what we said. I mean, I'm like so like shell shocked right now because that's what we said about Nevada last year.
No, we did not. No, we did not. Did we really? I swear we were nervous about Nevada.
The only reason we were nervous about Nevada is because like just the follow up to like Colin Kaepernick and like starting off the season against Nevada, just everyone has PTSD.
But Nevada was. I was not like Nevada's like. Nevada had an NFL.
I gotta go back.
level
I gotta go back
quarterback.
and listen to our pods
All right.
before then, and figure out if we were actually scared, or if it's just like PTSD part 2. Like I have PTSD about my PTSD. Like that's
Yeah, because really, it wasn't it from North Texas? Like it's PTSD of PTSD. It's like PTSD.
it's just like the inception of PTSD.
Yeah.
It just keeps you just keep falling asleep into a deeper realm.
We are going to win at home against Davis. Period. Full stop. That's where I'm at.
Andy
with
is
that one.
securing that win.
And then UNLV, I do see how you can get into this game of, well, it's Marcus Arroyo. He knows Cal very well. And, they're familiar. There's people in that program that know us. And,
Coached with some of our coaches.
yeah, so I can see their nerves there. I don't pretend to know that much about UNLV, but it's a game that you have to look at if you're Cal saying, we have to win that game.
Yeah.
Like you just cannot. If it's on the road, fine. You can throw some things out there, being like, "Well, it's a road game." Blah
We're
blah
in
blah.
Vegas.
Yeah. No, it's at home. Like you win these games at home. You have to go 2-0 into Notre Dame. You come out of that 2-1. You're back at home against Arizona. You have to beat Arizona at home. Period. So and like that, and Wilcox is gonna be furious about that last Arizona game. So. I don't think there's any chance that they come in. I mean, obviously, it's going to be like, dude, you're crazy. But I don't think there's any risk with the Arizona game, despite the history, despite the madness.
Do you remember the last time Arizona came to visit? Do you remember what happened?
I do remember. I watched our quarterback
Do you remember? You also
hand them the game.
yeah, and also remember their quarterback,
Yeah.
Khalil Tate, just double overtime, just
remember that
having his
one.
way with it. So,
Well, we did
Yeah.
go for it.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So that's the thought there. And then so I kind of look at the 3 home games and as like every single one of those has to be a win. And there isn't really an excuse that you can have for not having those be wins. And then if you want to toss up Washington State and you want to toss up Notre Dame, or even if you wanted to say 75-25, Cal being 25 chance to win that game, I'm fine with that. But I just think like 3-2 is your floor.
Yeah.
4-1 is you're kind of better, and 5-0 is a stretch goal. That's not really that out of the question as long as you take care of Notre Dame. And, is that realistic that we take care of Notre Dame? Like 25 to 30% chance that we win that game is where I'm sort of at.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I mean, I'm looking at the pick 6 previews about Notre Dame and some of their biggest, like they're replacing quarterback too, right? They don't have Jack Cohn anymore. It's probably going to be Tyler Buckner. And according to pick 6, he got some game reps as a true freshman. He had 300 yards rushing. It says that Tommy Rees, who is a former Notre Dame quarterback and now their offense coordinator for the last 2 years, he will probably be adding some like zone read options, RPOs, quarterback sweeps, because Buckner is a dual threat quarterback. We have historically not done very well against dual threat quarterbacks.
No, but this linebacker group,
Yeah,
is different.
So here's my thing is, Notre Dame's offensive line, right? In 2021, so last season, guess how many offensive linemen they had to replace? Their starting 5.
3.
4. Guess how many of the 5 is on the roster for 2022?
2.
All of them.
Yeah, so it's the classic everyone got experience.
And everyone got better. Yeah. And knowing their recruiting pedigree, it's like everyone's just going to get better. And that line's even more tight-knit now. So, like, they have that. I mean, granted, they lost a bunch of guys, especially on the defensive end. They lost a lot of guys in the NFL, and also on offense, like they lost the Kyron Williams, who was the school's first back to post consecutive 1,000-yard seasons since Darius Walker in 2005 and 2006. He's not there anymore, so they have to replace that. So like if you look at their like statistics, like last season, here's the big one, right? O-line run push averaged about 3.3 yards. 3.3 yards. 3.3 yards. That's 91st out of Power 5 schools. 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 91st out of Power 5 I don't believe that number will be that number
Yeah.
next year or
Yeah.
this upcoming season. I believe that number is going to be higher. And despite that being 91st in the country, they still had 144 yards on the ground per game. That's wild to me.
It's going to be a hard game.
Their passing offense, of course, ranked 20th in the Power 5 last year, 283 yards per game, 8.1 yards per attempt, and a QB rating of 150. Like for their entire team. And the touchdown interception ratio of 3. Yeah. It's going to be rough. It's going to be really hard. The saving grace for us is we just have to hope that they have a repeat of the Fiesta Bowl.
True.
So they had a 28-7 lead
Yeah.
in the Fiesta Bowl, and they lost it.
So I think that's the thing is I keep saying that, like, interim coach,
Well, now no
interim
longer.
interim to head coach.
Yeah.
We just don't have the body of work, and so it's like easy to be high on it and say, great, he's going to be the next Lincoln Riley,
Yeah.
and elevate the program, but you just don't know.
I think the only thing you could probably say from this, because most of the coaching staff stayed intact, I believe not a single one of the assistant coaches went to LSU with Kelly. So if I haven't looked deeply into it, but if all of them have stayed, the offensive scheme, production, all of that under Tommy Rees and all those guys, that'll remain the same. So you have continuity there. Defensively, it's Marcus Freeman. He's still going to take care of that defense. The defensive schematic will stay the same. All these guys that they brought in fits their system, so on, and they'll grow into that. The only X factor through all of this is how much Marcus Freeman dictates the game plan and what he calls.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the deciding factor in this game. Does he decide to go for it on times where he shouldn't have, or not go for it on times that he should have, or was too conservative, telling his offensive coordinator, let's just hold on to the ball here and run out clock, or whatever it may be. It's going to come down to those coaching decisions and less about the scheme, the staff, and coaching guys up. That's going to stay the same. That's always going to be there. So we just have to hope and fingers crossed that we just get one or two mistakes from him and we're able to capitalize on it. I think that's how we win it. That's how we win at Notre Dame. But I mean that's going to be a hard game.
It's going to be a fun game.
It's going to be a really fun game, though. I mean, all of us, there's a big crowd out there. Andy, you were talking right before we started recording that the bus guys that were tagging on along with said that the biggest surprise for them in planning for this football season has been Cal fans. So
that was a huge compliment.
Yeah.
And then I was like, make sure to tell the Big Ten that.
Yeah. I mean, just to go off of Notre Dame, one more thing. They actually start the season at Ohio State. That's their first game of the season. So that's also going to be pretty telling to me. If they get blown out by Ohio State, that'll give me some hope. A little bit of hope. But if they beat Ohio State, I'm going to be this ain't going to be good.
Yeah. The thing with I'm scared to say this one. The past precedent for us in out of conference games on the road has been good.
Except for last season.
Right. But competitively,
Yeah.
we still play competitive games,
True.
even if we don't win them.
True.
And even when we went to Ohio State, I remember being there, and that Cal team was really bad.
We were a couple field goals away from winning that one, too.
We blew the game.
Yeah.
We had that game. So we play pretty well on the road. So it could, we haven't seen a ton of blowouts unless, UCLA seem to get whooped by UCLA in
Zach
the World
Charbonnet,
Cup
yeah.
era. But it's just sort of why you can travel to a game for the most part with Cal football and feel pretty good about the fact that it's going to be relatively competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that.
We'll see how it goes.
So, yeah, that's our takes right there for the first 5 games of the season. So, now it's the bye week. And then I guess with the next one, you'll hear us talk about the rest of the season and where we think we'll end up by season's end. I think that's it. That's it for this podcast. Of course, I'm Rob11HWNG on Twitter. Andy is Andy Johnston on the internet in
What?
various places.
My full name? Good Lord.
It literally says that on the podcast. It has your full name.
My name is Andy J. B. Smith. I am officially on Twitter, but if you tweet me, you shall get no response.
He's unofficially on Twitter.
I am off of all social media right now and probably forever. But if you ever want to hang out at Cal game, catch me at the Right for California tailgates and at Notre Dame at the game.
Oh boy.
Probably pretty
Inebriated.
blasted.
Once again, that's it for this podcast of the Golden Bear Cast. And as always,
Go Bears.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.